So the last of the games in the divisional round of the playoffs to be played will be the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Denver to take on Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning's old team versus Peyton Manning's current team. The former face of the Colts franchise, Peyton Manning, playing host to the current face of the Colts franchise in Andrew Luck. And this was a matchup that I wanted to see all season in the playoffs. I know we got it in the regular season the past 2 years, but this was the matchup that I wanted to see. I wanted to see Andrew Luck versus Peyton Manning in the playoffs. I would have loved it even more if it would have taken place at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. But we got it how we got it, and I can't wait to see it Sunday evening. I just can't. This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's take a look at how these two teams got here to this position at this point in time. The Indianapolis Colts were the AFC South champions this year, finishing 11-5, and that's kind of impressive considering they started off the season 0-2. This was a team that had its moments throughout the season. This was a team that at times looked like they could be a real Super Bowl contender, and then other times, not so much. They had a good performance last week in the playoffs against a depleted Bengals offense, and they were able to win 26-10 in the wild card round at home. So now that's earned them a ticket to Denver to take on Peyton Manning and the Denver Horses, if you will. The Broncos find themselves in this position after earning a first-round bye in the AFC playoffs by going 12-4 in the regular season, being the AFC West champions. This is the fourth straight year in the playoffs for the Denver Broncos, their third straight year as divisional champions in the AFC West under Peyton Manning anyways. And now you get to that point where the Broncos organization has been pointing themselves all season. It's not about the future in any way. It's all about the here and it's all about the now. And their entire offseason was dedicated towards making big, significant changes come playoff time to help this team win a Super Bowl while that window of opportunity was still open, as small as it is. We're going to find out very soon whether those moves by Elway ultimately resulted in a payoff or not. Now, in terms of this matchup, how can the Colts win this game? First, as so often is the case, and I say it and it sounds kind of vanilla because I say it for everybody, but it's true. The Colts have to get a running game going, and they really need to get Boom Herron going early. Because if the Colts become one-dimensional on offense and they put so much of the burden early and throughout the game on Andrew Luck's shoulders, that's probably not the best recipe for success against a Broncos team that can generate a pass rush with Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, and a Broncos secondary that with guys like Chris Harris on the outside and Aqib Talib can man up and match up against your wide receivers like T.Y. Hilton and so forth. They have to keep that Broncos defense that is somewhat okay and solid against the run honest. They have to be able to establish Boom Herron early. They need to be able to open things up for Andrew Luck in the Colts passing game and take some of that pressure off of him early, because if he's forced to press, that's when Andrew Luck can make some really bad decisions. As skilled and as wonderfully talented as he is, he makes some incredibly boneheaded decisions sometimes. And if you put him in a position where he has to force it and he has to take on more of the responsibility, that could really lead to disaster. In the passing game, they need to get their tight ends, Dwayne Allen and Coby Fleener, involved early and often. The Broncos are just like every other team in the National Football League. Having a matchup with multiple tight ends like Allen and Fleener can present big-time matchup problems. And if Luck can get them going early and get them involved early over the middle of the field, it can open up things on the outside for that passing game. Frankly, Andrew Luck's got to outplay Peyton Manning. That's the truth of the matter. He's got to show that while the Colts were once Peyton Manning's team and this was once Peyton Manning's league, it's now Andrew Luck's time, and this is Andrew Luck's league. He has to be able to step up to the plate and outplay Peyton Manning in the playoffs. And yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. That's not the tallest task in the world to do, frankly, but you still got to do it. And from the Colts standpoint defensively, they must be able to get a pass rush on Peyton with 4 or 5 guys. If they allow Peyton Manning to stand tall in the pocket without a lot of pressure in his face, he could very well pick them apart. If they have to sit there and blitz and bring 6 or 7 people to be able to get any type of pass rush on Peyton Manning, he will still pick them apart because he will just eat through your zone. The Colts have to find a way with Walden and Werner on the outside to be able to generate a pass rush, only rushing 4 to 5. They have to consistently rush more than 4 to 5 guys in order to pressure Peyton Manning to get any hits on him whatsoever. It's going to be a long day for that Indianapolis Colts defense, and they're not going to win this game, period. Now, when you look at the Broncos, how can they win this game? They need to establish C.J. Anderson early and often. That'll be a big recipe and formula for their success. They need to get the ball out of Peyton Manning's hands some, not put him in a situation where thinks he has to do it all himself, because he will think he can do it all himself, and more often than not, that leads to disaster for his teams. They have to be able to simplify this game plan. They have to protect Peyton Manning, not just protect Peyton Manning in terms of in the passing game and with their running game, but they must protect Peyton Manning in terms of scaling him back a little bit, not allowing him to overthink it, not allowing him to overanalyze it, because I don't give a damn what anybody says. His legacy is chokes and excuses, and one of the reasons he chokes so often in the playoffs and his teams around him choke so often in the playoffs and fail to live up to expectations and fail to produce is because they are a direct reflection of Peyton Manning. And when he gets to those big games, he starts to overthink, and it's paralysis by analysis. He plays tight. His team follows suit. They play tight. And when you play tight for a long time, you end up playing scared. And that's the truth of the matter, whether anybody wants to accept it or not. They have to do things to be able to relax Peyton Manning and take some of the pressure off of him. So getting out to an early lead up 10 points or more would definitely help in that sense. They need to put Peyton Manning in a position where he can sit on the lead as Peyton Manning can, and he's one of the best at being able to hold a lead in the National Football League. You've got to get out to an early lead. They really need Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware to be big here. They've got to be able to disrupt Luck's timing early. They need to be able to get into his face, and all the while as a team as a whole, this needs to be a Broncos team that is aggressive and is physical, but they've also got to play relaxed. They can't play so tight like they did in Super Bowl 48. Otherwise, they could be faced with disaster here. When I look at this matchup, it's a dream matchup to me. Andrew Luck versus Peyton Manning. This is one I've been waiting for all year. This is one I believe I actually predicted at some point in time was going to happen. And I picked the Indianapolis Colts to go over the Denver Broncos back then. And I'm going to do it now. I've mentioned it before and I've said it before. The Broncos, in my mind, aren't going back to Super Bowl 49. And some of the things that I saw out of this team in recent weeks at the end of the regular season indicates to me clearly that that's not the case. It's been over 2 decades since a team went back to the Super Bowl the year after they lost the Super Bowl. It's just a very, very tough thing to do. You know, even the fact that the Broncos went 12-4 and made the playoffs, won their division, got a first-round bye is an incredible testament to Peyton Manning, John Elway, and everybody involved with that organization, because so often there's that Super Bowl loser hangover, and it's a problem. You know, in this case here, here's a team that went 12-4, won their division, got a first-round bye, has a home playoff game here and now. But I think Andrew Luck presents some real problems for them. I remember last year when the Colts got up on him in the regular season and housed him early and then held on to win. And even this year when the Broncos jumped out to a big lead, Andrew Luck came storming back, and the Colts were in a position where they almost were able to win the game. This is a Broncos team that I don't think is as good as last year's team, especially on the offensive side. I think they're a little easier to contain offensively, and they haven't made the big dramatic improvements on defense that many had anticipated or expected from this offseason. I totally anticipate that the Colts offense will play big, that Andrew Luck will outplay Peyton Manning, and that the Colts defense will do just enough, maybe force a big play or two, and the Indianapolis Colts will go into Mile High and beat the Denver Broncos 33-27 on Sunday. Yeah, I said it.